Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Shapes 2 video. This time, we shall indeed be working on Module 3. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Now, we should be starting off where we left off last video. We had just finished completing some more of those side tasks. And so you see here, they're just about done now. We've got the two factories here. Beautiful. So we'll go ahead and unlock those two with some extra research points. Perfect. And now we're up to date with our side tasks with our milestones here. So, before we go ahead and unlock that, why don't we just clear up this space here? There we are. Now we got ourselves a fresh start. Now the game gives us a little bit of a tutorial here. Now, adding another layer to this factory game through the use of these space platforms. Very cool. So here we have a little bit of a video demonstration showing us that now we can zoom out and build things on a massive scale using whole platforms. Then of course, kind of new tasks. Ooh. Some of which we could have kept some of our factory actually. We could possibly undo that. But here's some platforms that we've unlocked. And platforms that we can unlock, excuse me, with research points, as well as a vortex upgrade. Okay. Okay, a little bit of a tutorial. I won't go into that too much. This is what we're after now. So you've got some green teardrops here, which is not something that we've seen before. Added up to what we have seen before previously. So if I go ahead and undo that and have a look at the tasks. Looks like it does want. I think we were making that shape already, weren't we? Yeah, there we are. So we've got that one. And that as well. So 9 and 11, we could potentially, and also I guess 10, 9, 10, 11, we could use something of this design. So why don't I just save that. Side tasks. So why don't we start with something that we've just unlocked. If I keep scrolling out, eventually this is going to change. You see via the toolbar down the bottom, it'll change modes, and now we're in the space platform building mode. You can have a look at the shapes that are available to us in our immediate surroundings. And when you look at that, we have two different islands of shapes that's going to be very useful for our next milestone. So at a quick glance, we could use either of these, but that one's going to be slightly simpler because all we'll need to do is cut it in half. Excuse my voice, guys. Cut this in half and we'll have those 2 teardrops to use with our first milestone. So we've got just the big space version of the belts here that act very similarly to these belts. And then we also have the extractors, and that places this platform here. But without the additional inputs, if just do it placed like so, we're only going to get 1 quadrant available to us, where these other 3 are shut. However, if we have something like this, and then we go back into the shape miner, because what we've just placed, but we use the extension. If we place this on top of an island and connect it to the middle, you see how we've now unlocked a second row. If we do that twice more, and make sure they're connected the right way around, we'll unlock all 4 of those quadrants, which is ideally what you want to be shooting for. So why don't I go ahead and set this up so we have a couple at least to go from. But before I do that, I want to come across back to here and see how we've already set up this platform to have extractors and belts leading out. Well, rather than me having to do that all again, what I can do now, I can scroll out, select that platform, and save it. And that's going to be a simple miner in our hexagonal folder. And that way, when I place this over here, it's going to have all of those belts and miners already placed on that miner. And then I can simply add those extensions like so. Beautiful. And what you can do at this level, you can copy whole platforms like so. And if I just rotate that, that's not quite going to work. Okay, so that's a little bit of poor placement by me. So if I cut this and rotate it and put it up here, then we'll have those 3 connected to that 4th extractor. And then if we paste it again, come along here, you see how it's all red? But if I hold shift, the reason why it's red is because one of those is invalid, so it's not going to be able to place that far left one. But if I hold shift, or just rotate it like so, then we'll be able to place it again. So now in total we have 8 belts coming from this island of that shape. But in order to save on space belt usage, what we could do is grab this top one and get rid of those we'll select them and cut them, and then we'll go up a level and place them on the second level there. And then we'll have to connect these, obviously. And now all of this island shape is going to be funneling through the second level. Now I'm using the space belts here. If you connect them up, these shapes are going to be traveling along that middle belt, which is, I guess you can kind of see the layers here. Can you? I think so. Let me just, anyway. And joining in with the bottom level of this one. So we can use the one belt for multiple levels, first and second. Now that they're joined, we can just use the one lane to travel all the way back to our home base. You can see them traveling along together here. And because they're on different levels, this should have a smooth extraction rate here. And the same with this minor two. And we see we have all 8 lanes coming out. Ooh. And jumping straight onto our main platform here. Yep, the first shape only requires the right hand side of this. So again, a simple solution is simply to use the half destroyer. Like so. And there we have it. That's the shape that we want. Then we can just multiply that. Like so. Connect these up. And then route them into the vortex. And then, because I've created all of this on the first level alone, I can simply copy that, press E to go up, and paste it for the second level too. So it's just doubled our throughput. And we should have 8 lanes producing the shape that we need, which is going to fill up very quickly. It's another benefit of the half destroyer, it just makes things very simple and compact. Now let's have a look. Now we're going to want that previous shape that we used to create. If I recall correctly, we did save that in our blueprints. So let's have a look at our library. And I believe it was this milestone here. Milestone 2. So if we replace that, and look at that. That's the shape that we want. We also need to add another 2 blue triangles. So we are currently already creating these blue triangles here. So if we just copy and paste the same design and flip it and rotate it and throw it over here. There we've got the triangles that we need to then add on top. So rather than throwing it in, instead what we can do is funnel it across. Pardon me, and stack on the other side. So if we just continue that, copy, flip and rotate, and add here, all we need to do is remove this and bring that across and put that on the bottom. Now what is that going to give us? Not quite what we want, because we want those blue triangles on top of the grey triangles here, whereas we have them currently up on top here. So let's change the orientation here. So 1, 2, 3. What does that mean? If we just get rid of 3 rotators, perhaps that's all we need to fix the issue. Now if we have a look again at the output, that looks right, doesn't it? Perfect. We can leave that to run. We've got quite a few of those to make. And while that continues on, we can head back to our green shapes. And now it wants just a single green teardrop. So we want to get rid of that grey one now too. So why don't we start off by simply getting rid of these belts and hiding that top layer, and even just getting rid of everything else here, and then starting just with one single lane. So we now just have the grey and the green. We then recombine it into one lane, and then rotate it just 60 degrees. We'll need to do that twice. And then use the half destroyer again. Ooh, pardon me. And again, the reason why we're doing 3 and 2 is because of the ratios here. So you split open the line, close the line, and then split it open again. Now we just have the single teardrop. Perfect. That's what we want. So we can then recombine it. There we go. So that's our new design. We just need to copy and paste that. We could. Let's see. Why don't we shift this across a little bit and try and fit it all like so. Take these back like that. There we go. Then we can route these into their respective mini factories. There we have it. Got all 4 producing those little teardrops. And then before we copy and paste it on the next level, we'll just route these so we don't have to do that twice. Press E to move up and add it again. Now, unfortunately, I have deleted those receivers, so I'll just add them back in. There we go. We've got ourselves a whole lot on these green teardrops there. Now, I'm just having a look here, and yes, we're being inefficient with our creation of these shapes here. And why is that? Because we're not using the middle two, and we're dumping quite a bit of the shape, some of which we could be reusing. But rather than redesign this whole thing, instead what we could do is maybe shift this onto its own separate platform, and then just copy and paste this monstrosity, rotate it, and then paste it here. The only problem with that is it's taking up this part. So if we are just able to shift this small section over to potentially this side of the map, then we can just replicate it on the other 2/4 of this platform. So one step at a time, let's move this factory. So if I copy that, let's see what we can make. On second thought, let me just pause this and wait for this to finish up, and then we'll have a clean slate to move it and change it afterwards. We're going to pause. We did that quite quickly. Fantastic. So rather than use this main space, we could outsource the factory, let's say, to this section here. So I've just used the foundations, and I'm going to paste that factory over here. And unfortunately it's a bit too big. What I might have to do is delete that and go sideways and try again. So we're pasting that in. That's just fitting for us. So now we're just simply doing the same thing that we're doing over here. We've just moved it back along that production line. See here we have what we had originally on that bigger platform. And now what we want to do is combine both of those to create two opposite teardrops. So for this relatively simple puzzle, why don't we go ahead and leave all the bottom shapes at the same orientation, and then all the top shapes we can rotate 180 degrees and then simply combine them with a stacker. Get the rotator tool and do that. Let me finish this up. Okay, so here's what we've got so far. All we've really done here is set it up so that all of these top teardrops have been rotated 180 degrees. And rather than try and fit anything else in this platform, we're just going to route them back out, and then we'll do the stacking on another platform just so it's nice and neat. Why don't I go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you guys on the new platform. Here we have the top layer routed and the bottom layer now too. Top layer, bottom layer, and you can see they're at different orientations. Now you see we have our second platform, and we've just connected the two together. From the bottom and the top, different orientations now. We'll just work on stacking all of these together and then routing them back to our home base, but we won't need that anymore. There we go. So here we have our first set of 4 bent stackers, funneling in the bottom input and also the top input, and funneling out the output here. Then we just want to multiply that by 4, like so. And then I just need to connect up these two and then connect this up to an output as well. And now we can see we're using all 8 lanes efficiently with 16 bent stackers. And you can see why we decided to use a second platform, because that would have been a bit difficult to fit into here using that top space already for some rotations. Better to keep it fairly clean, like so. We've combined, and now we have 4 lanes of exactly the shape that we're after. Perfect. And it's simply a matter of routing that back into our vortex. We don't need that second layer anymore, so we'll get rid of that. But herein lies our problem, because we were hoping to make use of these squares here by doubling that production. So before we do that, why don't we go ahead and try and double our production by copy and pasting, and then from there we can see how we might be able to route it around that second factory. But before we do that, as we've stated before, we want to move this section of the factory into that quadrant somewhere. So let's work on that first. So there we go. I've just copied and pasted this section, rotated a bit, and put it over here. And then I've rerouted it. So instead of going down here, it's doubling back along itself and going up to the top. And instead of these coming down that way, we're going back to the right. And then putting ourselves on the bottom of these stackers. And then the output is coming back along, jumping over here, and going over the top of that input, and then funneling itself into the vortex, like so. Now we can get rid of all this now unused belts and factories. We see, because this is now only taking up the top and right, we should be able to copy it and rotate our camera, rotate the factory, and just double our output. Now we'll just check this here, and yes, it looks like it's the same shape again. Brilliant. That's what we're after. Now that we've done that, now I feel safe routing these through into the vortex. Now there's nothing currently on the second level here, so an easy solution for this is to simply jump these up above, like so, and route them straight in using that second layer exclusively. And it's going up above our factory and straight into the vortex. And there we have it. Once those belts fill up, we should start counting down on these. And we're building into that. And the final shape here just looks like a easy combination of the two. Now while we wait for this milestone 3 to complete, I've just had a quick look at the side tasks, and it looks like maybe we shouldn't have used the half destroyer after all. We could have simply cut it in half and put that second part straight in, but that's okay. And if you haven't started on that yet, then that's what I'd recommend you do instead. And this next new side task is aptly named leafing alone, so it doesn't look like you really need to do anything to this starting shape here. You simply need to throw that into the vortex. So why don't I get that set up? And the simple solution is simply to take from this input and have it wrap around here. So that's going to split the input in half. So half of it's going to continue to funnel in and half of it's going to divert. And I'm not too concerned about that because this is counting down more quickly than the shape that we're producing fewer of per minute. So that's fine. I'm happy with that. And we're simply going to route these straight into the vortex here. And there we have it. I've just routed the top section here. And I've just left the bottom row as is. The reason for that is because we don't need a whole lot of them. I don't need to mess around too much with squiggling through here, doing anything fancy. So just the top is fine for me. However, the next iteration of this is going to be slightly more challenging as we only need 2 extra grey teardrops. We can start to work on that aspect. Let's put it over here. We'll funnel that again. That way we at least have something to work with visually. Now some of these we want to keep as is, but then the other half we want to remove those 2 green teardrops. So let's keep it super simple. With the bottom rung, we're going to just route it straight through this platform and not touch it at all. That will be the bottom 2/3 of this shape. But for the top layer, what we'll do is we'll see if we can't cut both of those green dots off here. So just cutting straight away is not going to produce the result we need. So we're going to need to rotate it first. So let's do that. So as you can see here, we can see the end product coming out on the left. Let me zoom in for you. So that looks like the correct orientation because this cutter here cuts off the left hand side. So if we go back to the rotator, that'll be cutting off one of the green teardrops. The 180 rotator is not helpful, and neither is the clockwise. Looks like we'll cut off nearly all of it and just be left with one green teardrop instead. So that's the way to go. And if none of those options work, we could just stack it like so until we get the desired result. And that looks right too. So we could either do 4 of them, or if you've unlocked the counter rotator, just use that one instead. Now we obviously need 2 of those. Connect that up. Into the half destroyer here. Perfect. So that's what we wanted. Getting rid of one of those. And then it looks like if we rotate counterclockwise just once, we can get rid of that second green thing. Now we could bring it back together and then back out again and do it like so. Or an alternative is, because it's already split, we can just have 3 of them like so. And then put the cutters in straight after that. That's more compact. We are using 1 more rotator, but that's not an issue at all. And then we can recombine here. And there we go. We're left with just what we need. But, as you can see, pardon me, it's not in the right orientation yet, whereas this one is. So, what we could do is, before recombining it under the same belt, we could simply rotate them again. And that looks right, doesn't it? So we use the counter rotator, counterclockwise, rotating it into a little nice love heart shape before recombining it into one belt. Yep, that looks good to me. We just need to multiply that design by 4. So we're making use of all 4 of those belts. So let's copy this and paste it. We got lucky, that's very close. But we're just able to make it inside this platform. And we just need to route these shapes. And we'll run into a bit of a problem here. Let's see if we can't fix that. We could get rid of that section, cut and paste this over, and just condense that. There we go. Now I've got all 4 belts flowing in, producing the same result, and then we'll just route them back out the other side. Perfect. And then for the next island, we really only need a single one, don't we? We can... oh, is that right? Yeah, we were able to fit that on a single island. So what we can do is just copy this design here. Or even better, copy the whole platform. Like so. Mind you, we'll see if we can fit it on the single. So we'll just copy the design. Control C, rotate the camera, rotate the design, there we go. So all this is doing is just stacking the top layer onto the bottom layer. And that should be producing the desired result down the bottom. Perfect. And then we can connect that up to our belt that already heads down here. And because we've finished with this one, we can unlock it and we can delete that routing. So now we'll only be using those 4 shapes here. One minor problem here is we're using the bottom layer, but when we come out, we're routing from the top. We'll just quickly fix that up. We'll go from the bottom and then up. From the bottom, up. Same thing here. Now this still has a bit of a backlog from the old shape, but we should soon start seeing the new shape come through instead. And there we go. right here. It also looks like we've finished creating both these and these now. And now all we need to do is combine them both. Let's see if they're what orientation they're currently in. No, they're not in the desired orientation currently. And neither of them if we point north. So let's stick with... Let's stick with the orientation of these green teardrops. And then we'll just rotate this shape so that it can nicely line up with the orientation of the teardrops already. So what do we need for that to happen? Looks like we just need to rotate it counterclockwise once. So let's do that. There we go, that looks right, doesn't it? Now this is getting a bit messy, isn't it? I'm going to go ahead and move this part of the factory back. Let's throw that up against the wall and reconnect everything. And then what I actually want is just to add an extra set of stackers so that we can route these green ones onto the top here. There we go, we've just changed the direction by dragging that across. And we'll do the same with the top layer. But because these belts are only at 50% now, because we're siphoning off half of the belt here, I feel comfortable combining these two together. I'll just get rid of what it was doing. There we go, it started to combine. That looks right. Let's just check. It's coming across here, going in like this, and we're going to wait for the green tick, just to make sure we're creating the right shape. Wonderful. There we are. So that is milestone 3 starting to complete here. And now we obviously still have another 2 lanes here that we can combine and use this section here to do the same thing that we've done over here. So let's copy and paste that. Oh, actually, all of that. Yep. We'll delete that and paste, rotate twice, and fill that in. Now, where's this supposed to be going? I believe it's up and across. We're still making the same shape here, and now I need to route the other 2 lanes here and just get rid of these because they're not being used, and we'll combine these 2. Whoop. And instead of routing down into the vortex, we'll just come across, see here, and throw all of that into the top stacker. And then get rid of these top 2. Oop. And you see here, that should be creating the same shape again. So we should have just doubled our throughput on that last Milestone 3 shape. Brilliant. That's going to take a good while to count up to 8,000, which will give us plenty of time to work on the next section of this here shape. Now this is this is where it may start to get quite a bit messy, unfortunately. But let's unlock that first. So, as you guys can see, we just need the 2 red little triangles here on top of the shape that we're already creating. Now, the obvious choice is to use this shape here, and we've got some spare lanes, but I'm not actually going to do that. I don't want to create too much spaghetti here on my home base. And I've just had a quick look out here, and it looks like we have the same shape just out here. So instead, what I'll prefer to do is do some mining and bring this shape back in around here, and then do a combining outside of that main hub, just to keep it fairly clear so we don't have too much craziness going on. So what's that gonna look like? I could simply copy all of this, even all of that, like so, and then I'm right clicking to get rid of it, but if I control V, I can get it back straight away. And come over here, scroll in. Now how much of that is gonna work? If I rotate it around, it's not quite gonna fit. What orientation is this? Yeah, it's not quite the same island, is it? No matter. I can just do one side. Just holding shift here to select one more or one less. Well, no, I can't do one less. Can do one more though. Anyway. I'll grab these actually, because that's the first layer. Copy. Bring it over here. Rotate my camera around. Paste. Oop. So I've just done some very basic experimentation, and I've either forgotten about this or they've implemented it later, but each of these extensions don't have to be connected to the main hub themselves, but see how all 4 of these are open? If we remove one, we close off that quadrant here, but if we connect it to another extension, as long as that extension is connected to this platform, it will open back up that 4th quadrant, which means we have some more flexibility with how we place our islands. So we'll place our first one like so, and then the second one we can rotate, hold shift, and that's going to place 3 of the 4. See, we're missing 1 currently, but all we need to do is press C, so that we're now placing that another extender, and place that connected to that first extender, which then opens up that 4th one. Now we have 2 whole stacks of that new shape. Perfect. before we continue building this, no, never mind, we're all good. Now, we only want the red 2/3 of this shape to create both this shape and the one after it. So let's go ahead and route both of these away. And then, in fact, I won't place that one yet, we'll just work on this side here. So, a simple destroyer is going to be helpful for us. If we go north here, there we go, it's destroying the west side, and then if we rotate it and do it again, there we go, that's the shape that we want. But of course we need 3 of those, otherwise it's going to back up. So let's place all this as far to the bottom as we can and multiply that by 3. And that'll take care of that far south belt here. And then of course we can recombine like so. And then if we do the same for the second belt, and then route these to their respective outputs, we've just created half of let me see here, just a second. I'm just taking note of the current orientation of those 2 red triangles, and then we're going back to our home base. The current orientation is the correct one, so we'll leave that as is, and we might as well also rotate that to the correct orientation here. So before recombining it, use the rotator, and you want the bottom. None of those is helpful, but that one is close. So if we do 2 of those, now we see we've rotated that to the bottom, which is where we're going to attach it to the other shape. Remember our trick before, selecting all of that, pressing I, getting rid of all the wrong orientated shapes. And now we're simply producing both the correct shape and also in the correct orientation to be stacked. Now that we've created the bottom 2, it's simply a matter of selecting all of that. Copy, flip, and paste. Then we're able to create and double the output there using the other 2 belts. Perfect. Now, using largely the same system here, we can copy all of that, rotate it twice, and connect it up to this side. And we'll leave that to run for now, because we want to get a head start on these shapes here. So let's belt these across. And we'll stop this from producing, and instead have them combine onto this button here. They're both coming from the first layer. So we'll start off by putting the second one onto the top. fact, we may even cut that out and put that up on a platform before. And connect this in here and simply route that. So they're coming into the same input. Now, why am I bothering to do that? The reason why I've just used this platform to route is so that I can then reuse this platform here. Because we've already set up a platform that stacks shapes for us. But the current input for this setup is all the shapes on the bottom go to the bottom, all the shapes on the top go to the top, and they come from the same little input section here. So now that we've fixed that up, if we just rotate this, we see now we've got the correct input here. So we can go ahead and copy that. Just rotate it twice and throw that in there. And you see we have the correct output without having to do any extra routing or redesigning this stacker platform. And from there we can simply connect that back to home base, and that should throw that into the vortex for us. Wonderful. Now, let's work on this top section. So we need these red triangles in a different orientation, 180 degrees. And they're currently in the bottom. So they start off, after being cut, they start off top right. So instead of rotating them clockwise twice, we want to rotate them anti-clockwise once. So we'll get rid of all these rotators. So that doesn't look right, so we'll press tab. There we are. That's what we want. Recombine them. Perfect. And then from there, let's make it easy on ourselves. And put these on the second level now. That way, and we route these across. We can use the stacker platform that we made earlier. Combine these both, and that should output with the correct combined two sets of red triangles. Perfect, that's what it will look like we're getting to. We could even just simply throw that back into the same pipeline. Now this feels a little bit messy, but it's actually not too bad of an idea. because I'm going to need both of these, and we need more of those than we do of these. So starting that early is fine. And once we finish with all of these shapes, all we need to do is get rid of that line, and then all we'll be producing is that correct shape here. And for now, we need both, so I'll keep that. And let that run for a while. Okay. And that's that. Leafing alone complete. The next few down here require bulk delivery. You can see here it's quite a dramatic increase here, requiring 3,000 of each of those. However, I think we may finish this episode here, as this recording has now gone on for over an hour. So we may pick up next time and just smash out a few more of these side tasks. But we have technically finished our factory with Milestone 3. We're just waiting for that to finish inputting our 8,000, and we work on our side tasks. And so far we've just got these, but those second ones should be coming along soon. Where are we? Yeah, we're back here. They're well on their way as well. Because we have such a long line, it may even be profitable to delete this now, because we probably have enough of that shape to finish the last 200 that we need there. And we should just be creating those double red triangles now. Or soon, should I say. In any case, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this and been able to follow along. And until next time, have a blessed week. Bye for now.